The relationship between fundamental rights, FRs, and directive principles of state policy, DPSPs, is one of mutual reinforcement and balance. The Constitution of India is based on the idea that these two sets of principles should be interpreted together to achieve the goals of the Constitution. Here are some ways that FRs and DPSPs relate to each other. 1. Purpose. FRs protect the rights of individuals, while DPSPs set goals for the state to achieve. Together, they protect both the individual and the collective aspirations of the people. 2. Enforceability. FRs are justiciable, meaning that courts can enforce them if they are violated. DPSPs are not justiciable, meaning that courts cannot enforce them if they are violated. 3. Scope. FRs are concerned with the individual, while DPSPs are concerned with society as a whole. 4. Suspension. FRs can be suspended during a national emergency, but the rights guaranteed under Articles 20 and 21 cannot be suspended. DPSPs cannot be suspended under any circumstances. 5. Interpretation. Courts should interpret FRs and DPSPs harmoniously, and try to give effect to both as much as possible. And 6. Balance. The balance between FRs and DPSPs is essential to the Constitution's basic structure. Giving superiority to one over the other would disrupt the Constitution's purpose. The relationship between fundamental rights and directive principles of state policy, DPSP, is one of mutual reinforcement, with fundamental rights taking precedence in the event of a conflict. 1. Fundamental rights. These are the basic rights of citizens, such as the right to life, freedom of speech, and equality. They are legally enforceable by the courts, and do not require legislation for implementation. 2. Directive principles. These are the goals the state should strive for, such as promoting social and economic justice and protecting workers' rights. They are non-justiciable, meaning they are not legally enforceable by the courts, and require legislation for implementation. And 3. Judicial decisions. In the event of a conflict between fundamental rights and DPSP, fundamental rights will prevail. For example, in the case Champakam Dorairajan versus the State of Madras, 1951, the Supreme Court ruled that fundamental rights would take precedence over DPSP. Here are some other judicial decisions that have shaped the relationship between fundamental rights and DPSP. 1. Venkataraman versus State of Madras. The court ruled that the Madras government's order to give preference to the Harijan and backward classes was unconstitutional. 2. Golak Nath. The Supreme Court emphasized that fundamental rights and DPSP form an integrated scheme that can respond to the changing needs of society. And 3. Minerva Mills. The Supreme Court said that fundamental rights are not an end in themselves but are the means to an end, and that the end is specified in the DPSP.